Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. It's not very often that I get to make a U.S. immigration video where something that I saw in pop culture made me think of U.S. immigration, but I'm an immigration nerd, I guess, and sometimes it does happen. I was watching the series 1923, season 2, and specifically I think it was in, episode 3, where we saw U.S. immigration matters pop up. Spencer Dutton's beloved is trying to get back to him in America and crosses the Atlantic Ocean from the UK, from England, and comes to Ellis Island. What she finds, now let's bear in mind, in 1923, the immigration system was based on a different set of laws than currently we have a set of laws on. Now, let's get into legalities for the present day. So an applicant can be found inadmissible under Section 212A7AII of the Immigration Nationality Act. That pertains to intending immigrants without proper documentation. This is an example of how even though you can get a tourist visa and have a tourist visa to the United States, you can be found inadmissible nonetheless, because you can be found to be what they call an intending immigrant without proper documentation, i.e. you don't have an immigrant visa. In this show, it was kind of a similar situation, albeit, again, different set of laws prevailed at the time that this series is set. So it's set in 1923, again, different set of laws. But as they point out in the video, or in the series, and I urge those who are watching this video, maybe check out 1923, basically she gets to the U.S., and she's kind of from a well-to-do background. She's never had to deal with matters pertaining to the sort of hoi polloi. In any event, she gets to the U.S. and she's told, oh, you got to wait in line, go to Ellis Island. She said, well, these people are getting off. And they say, well, those people got visas before they left, so they're able to just disembark and go on about their business. They got visas through the embassy. You did not. You got to go over here and be inspected. That's very similar to, and kind of analogous to today, where you can show up with a tourist visa to the United States and still be found to be inadmissible if they deem that you're actually an intending immigrant without proper documentation. And I've seen this before. Most notably, I had a case involving having to get a waiver of this level of inadmissibility, and it is a grounds of inadmissibility. You can be found inadmissible to the U.S. and told you can either voluntarily depart, or you can be placed through what's called expedited removal, turned around and be subject to a 5-year ban from returning to the United States, neither of which is something you want to really go through. That being said, it may be possible to get what's called a waiver of inadmissibility, so you can get a waiver of your immigration status and, not your immigration status, waiver of the finding that you were inadmissible and return to the U.S. with the proper visa, basically go and get an immigrant visa. I actually saw this happen. It was a woman who was entering the United States on a tourist visa. In her baggage, or carry-on baggage, she had an I-130 form. She didn't have the correct intention, shall we say, for entering the United States. She was on a tourist visa. She didn't have tourist intent. She had the intent to immigrate, and they made a finding that she was inadmissible. I thought they went a little bit too far in putting her through what's called expedited removal proceedings, turned her around, sent her back, and she had to get a waiver. We assisted her at that time, managed to get her back in the United States with her husband, but it took a number of years, about 2 years as I recall, to put her through the immigration process and then put her through the waiver process to get her back in. That said, it is somewhat similar to what Miss Dutton goes through in this episode of 1923, insofar as, look, you may think you have all your documentation in order, and notwithstanding that, you may be found inadmissible anyway, i.e. you may have a tourist visa, but if U.S. Customs and Border Protection deems that you're actually an intending immigrant without proper documentation, you can be turned right back around and then be subject to a bar from re-entering the U.S., which may only be overcome by a waiver. Those folks out there who've yet to even get a visa, or you're sort of curious as to your status, whether or not you're eligible for a visa, or whether it's a good idea to enter on one type of visa if you have certain intentions, may not be a terrible idea to contact a legal professional, gain some insight and guidance into how best to proceed.